thank you for giving me the time to talk to you about this. And I think that everybody can just think for a minute at a time where you were able to look up to the sky and feel a real sense of awe. And I imagine that this was a place where it was really, truly dark. And this winter, I had the opportunity to go to Maine, and it was pretty amazing. I was blown away by the sky and the number of stars I was able to see. And it reminded me how easy it is to become habituated, you know, um, to forget what the night sky could really look like. Because we're used to just looking up at the sky and only seeing a very few number of stars. So, all right. Um, but hopefully you are one of the lucky people. Only 2 out of 10 people on Earth can actually see the Milky Way, and 99% of the people in the United States um, and Europe live under light polluted skies. So sadly, the stars are disappearing from our view. There are different types of light pollution which impact our ability to see the night sky. So one of them is sky glow, which is a dome of brightness on the horizon that obscures our view of the night sky. Sky glow is caused by misdirected light scattering through our atmosphere. And here we can see sky glow in Tucson. I'm actually going to turn off my stop my video because my computer is not liking all of this. But here you can see I live in Southern Albemarle. I can certainly see the sky glow from Charlottesville. Okay. Here we have an example of glare. So I know everybody's experienced this before. If you've been blinded by an oncoming car or just outdoor lighting. Glare is when light enters your eyes at a shallow angle, and this causes pain and the restriction of the pupil, actually reducing visual acuity. And of course, everybody is familiar, I'm sure, with light trespass when the neighboring light actually shines into your windows. So we know that light pollution has consequences from turtles to humans and everything in between. There are ecological impacts. So I'm sure many of you know about sea turtles, how when they initially hatch, they head to the ocean because of the light of the moon moon and stars reflects off the water. But now because of our cities are so well illuminated, many of those sea turtles actually head inland rather than to the ocean. Also, let's see. We have the birds, right? So what ends up happening are the birds get confused by the light. And so especially during spring and fall migration, as they travel through urban areas that are well illuminated, they become confused. And if they don't end up hitting a building, they become exhausted, fall to the ground. And of course, they're subjected to starvation and predation by things like house cats. There are millions of birds die every year because of this. And even the trees are affected by light pollution. You can see how those exposed to artificial light at night bud earlier, they lose their leaves later and have shorter lifespans. And you can see how light on these trees has affected their natural cycle. Here we have the impact on fireflies. Field studies have shown that fireflies are lured to artificial light at night and are less likely to engage in courtship dialogues. Even car headlights and light escaping from windows can interfere with firefly communication. And these populations do not easily move from one area to another, so they can't escape the light, which is the second greatest threat to firefly populations outside of habitat loss. And there's an impact on all sorts of pollinators. And this is just one example. A team of scientists in Switzerland investigated how the interactions between plants and pollinators were affected by artificial light at night by comparing plots illuminated by LEDs and those left in the dark. And focusing on one plant species, the cabbage thistle, ecologists counted 62% fewer insect visits on the lit meadows. They also noticed a 29% fewer pollinators than in the control plots. And there are many examples of various studies on pollinators. And so light pollution, waste energy, right? About 35% of lighting worldwide is wasted light, shooting straight up into the sky. And so when we do the math, we spend around $3 to $7 billion a year on wasted light, while adding 21 million tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere every year. So it's something we should really be doing something about. There's an impact on human health. Humans evolved on this planet with reliable cycles of light and dark. The addition of light into what has always been darkness disrupts our natural circadian rhythm, the internal clock, syncing our biological clocks with the day-night cycle. Our circadian rhythm is mediated by the hormone melatonin, and secretion of this is suppressed when we are exposed to light at night, specifically blue or white light that mimics what we experience under the daytime sun. So it disrupts our health. And it has been linked to an increased risk for all types of cancer and other health issues, including obesity, depression, and sleep disorders. And, you know, there's the heritage of our skies. Looking up at the stars helps us to understand our place in the universe. So if you look at this image here, I want to just challenge you to try to find, there is somebody that is lurking in the shadows, and I don't know if you can actually see who that somebody is because of the house light. But if you were to block out that light, you can easily see that there is somebody at the gate. So lighting can lure us into a false sense of security. It causes blind spots. One is better off letting your eyes adjust to the dark. And just last night, I walked outside to my garden. It's very dark. I don't have any outdoor lighting, but I took my phone, I had the light on, and it was really clear. I could only see in front of me. And finally, I turned the light off, and it was amazing. There's I think a half moon out there, but I could see everywhere. I could see into the forest if I just let my eyes adjust. So according to ADT security systems, most burglaries and break-ins actually occur between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. So a better option to leaving lights on at night is to probably use motion detectors. And this would be more effective in alerting us to trespassers. So this argument that we have to have lighting for safety is really a false one. So light pollution is increasing at almost 10% per year. So it's kind of shocking what we have in front of us. These images show the progression of artificial light at night as seen from space. It's not hard to imagine a world without any remaining natural darkness at all if we continue at the current rate. And here are just some images of Charlottesville, and you can see, which is kind of interesting to look at this light pollution map, that in a decade, you almost can see that it looks like in some areas in Charlottesville, there's been a decrease in light intensity, but you can definitely see that the light pollution has expanded into the urban ring and out into the rural area. And so there's a scale that's used that's called the Bortle scale. And, if you're in New York City, that would probably be a 9. You'd be hard pressed to see any stars. But even where I live, I would say that the sky looks more like a 6, uh, which is kind of sad. So I don't want to just be all doom and gloom. We can make a difference, right? And this has to be addressed through education, changes in public policy, and individual action. And one way to do this is through better lighting design. And so one thing that I'm just going to talk about a few lighting design principles. One includes making sure that the light is shielded and that it's facing downward. Also making sure that the temperature of the lighting is going to be more on the warm side than the cooler side. And so IDA, International Dark Sky, they recommend that all lighting be below 3000 Kelvin. And so one thing that I have begun doing is anytime I get a new LED light, I've actually just gone for something that's like a 2700, or even I've purchased some bug lights, which are really on the yellow end of the spectrum. And the other thing is, even if you shield lights, and you can see that this intersection, all the lights are fully shielded, that there's still, when the light shines on the pavement and on sidewalks, it gets reflected back into the sky. So we really have to consider the intensity of how intense the lighting is, and also, is the lighting warranted? Do we really need it? And one thing that the last time I was in a plane and flew into Richmond, I looked down, it was at night, and it was kind of amazing how much light just goes out our windows in our homes. We have homes with lots of windows, which are really nice. So now I really try to be careful about pulling all my blinds at night and really considering how many lights do I have on, making sure that they're only on for the task that I'm doing in front of me. So there's little things that we can do in our own lives to help this. So just to recap these lighting principles, any light you have on should have a clear purpose. We shouldn't have lights on that we're not using. Making sure that our lighting is targeted. It should be no brighter than necessary. We should be taking advantages of controls. LED lighting, the one thing that's really good about it is energy efficient, but also we're able to use smart technology to dim them, turn them off, et cetera, and also making sure that the color temperature is really on the warm side. I also want to encourage advocacy. Of course, we all know that we have AC 44, and making sure that there is dark sky language in the comp plan update, because this will be followed by a lighting ordinance update. And one thing we want to make sure, not only do we have a good ordinance, but also one that can be easily enforced. The city of Charlottesville has updated their lighting ordinance. Right now, they're in the process of retrofitting their street lights to LEDs, which is good in terms of energy efficiency, but it's going to be bad in terms of increasing light pollution, because those lights are going to be much more on the blue end of the spectrum, and they're going to be much more intense. And so unfortunately, the city is really limited in how they retrofit those lights, because Dominion owns the lights and they have a limited number of replacement fixtures available. So it's a bit of a problem. So I would also want to advocate for Audubon has a lights out program during the spring and the fall bird migrations. And so there are some cities, I'm sure you've heard of it, like Philadelphia and some larger cities will actually encourage businesses to turn off their lights during these migration periods. And you can see there are no blue spots in Virginia. So maybe we could put Charlottesville on the map and get businesses to turn off their lights during these migration periods. I encourage people to read. There's some great books. Also in Virginia, we do have several dark sky parks. We have the James River State Park, which is not that far from here. So one of the few to really get out there, remember why it's important to reduce light pollution. And I just wanted to make a little pitch for this group that I'm part of that we've started called Piedmont Dark Skies. We meet virtually on the second Monday of each month. Emily Breyer, she lives in Greene County. She does a great job. She has manages a Facebook page, and she just does a great job putting information there. And one of the things that we feel pretty good about is that we did put in front of City Council and the County of Albemarle Dark Sky. It's International Dark Sky Week, which is April 2nd through the 8th. And there's a proclamation, and those proclamations will be approved and read. For the city, it'll be April 1st, and for the county, it'll be April 3rd. And I think that is all I have. I think I did pretty well by getting that out in 20 minutes. But happy to take any questions if you have them.
Yeah, that was quite fine. Thank you, Christine. As
I'm going to stop sharing so my computer will calm down.
Why is Chicago so bad? Look like the worst city in the United States for light pollution.
Yeah, well, there are a lot of buildings there.
Because, I mean,
Oh, I mean, in terms of the birds?
No, in terms of light, I mean, it looked like it had a greater intensity in area than Los Angeles.
Bad lighting.
I think I lean to the second explanation.
Yeah, lots of bad lighting, and they believe that lighting is going to keep them safe.
And that explanation as well.
Yeah.
Bill, your hand is raised.
It is. Christina, you talked about the migration problems with birds. Does it interfere with their nesting?
Oh, yeah. It interferes with everything, right? Because just like you and I, right, all life on Earth has evolved.
Yeah.
With cycles of light and day. So it messes with their circadian rhythms. It's not good. And they can nest earlier, they sing, their singing patterns are messed up, right? There's lots of things, lots of problems.
Yeah, Christine, you mentioned sort of the potential conflict between dark skies and saving energy, which is important for climate action. I'm wondering, because it's always important to kind of keep in mind conflicts between different kinds of environmental action, like, well, with wind plants and bird strikes or bat strikes.
Right.
Are there any sort of issues beyond the things like LED lights where you see there might be a conflict between pursuing a dark sky and supporting, climate action?
I think that they really go hand in hand, right? If especially because there's so much illumination that having the lights on constantly when they're not serving any purpose, right? And I think that one of the biggest problems that we're faced with is because the lights are cheap. And one thing that you notice is the installation of the solar lights. So people don't even have to wire them up anymore. So, I mean, you can put a solar light anywhere now, right? And many of them are facing up. So it's just like they're cheap, they're really bright. And so it's a lot of education. I mean, it's good. It's just like the problem with, Bitcoin and AI. It's just like, where is the end to it? And if people just don't pause and think about, you know, it's too much. Where do we stop with it?
And the
I
problem
don't think
in,
that answers your question, but
yeah, well, no, that's helpful. I just was trying to ask if there are other things we have to think about, but in terms of, it being cheap and so on, and people will want more. I mean, I think the fundamental problem in so many things we talk about tonight is, we have to accept limits to our presence and our impacts, and we don't like to think about that. It's ideologically not part of the American dream, and we've finally hit that problem now.
mhm. And the LEDs are not all bad, right? So, for example, in the retrofit for the city of Charlottesville, and also, VDOT, apparently they own the lighting for the county. I mean, all the street lighting. So we're going to have the same issue in the county as well. But I think that Dominion just needs to get up to speed with their lighting. And if they can offer better lighting, for example, you take a Flagstaff, Arizona, or Tucson, Arizona, where they have a really strong dark sky ordinance. And then when I was there, it's on the yellow end of the spectrum. And so there's not the bright white and the light is not so intense. And that really makes a difference. So we just have to get up to speed. And in the meantime, be more conscientious and have more conversations about the impact of all this light.
Hey, Christine, is there any, have you seen any explanation for an apparent decrease in intensity in the city, in certain neighborhoods of the city as opposed to the outer ring?
Yeah. I really noticed that it's interesting because I focused in there and it looked like it was one of the shopping centers. And I wondered if maybe that they had done a retrofit on their lighting. So maybe that was it. It sort of looked like it was
Okay.
the intersection of Hydraulic and 29. And so maybe there was a change in terms of how that land was used. And then, the lighting ordinance that we do have in Albemarle County, perhaps it was put in place and it made a difference.
Christine,
Ren, go ahead. Yeah.
Christine, every time I go down 29 North at night, I'm really annoyed by all the lights at the Potter's Cider place. Do you know if there's a new ordinance, that kind of lighting will be allowed? I mean, there's a light every 2 feet through back and forth through this bloody parking lot. Have you been down there at night and do you know what I mean?
No, but we have the wineries here as well, and so they're all lit up at night. And what's really difficult about the ordinance is I'm still kind of confused about what is acceptable, what isn't acceptable in terms of the lighting. It's very confusing. But I actually think contacting Potter Cidery and making them aware, like, those lights should not be left on after business hours, right? And so, it is, and because I'm constantly, sometimes I think I'm going to run off the road because I'm always looking at the lighting. It's like, is this dark sky compliant? Is this compliant with the ordinance?
Right.
And in fact, I just made into the city of Charlottesville, like there's the Ix Art Park where that lighting is not fully shielded. It's shining out to the side. And there's several other examples of this. And so I filed 4 complaints. So I'm waiting for the city to see if they will ever get back to me.
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not, because I've already filed another one where the lights on the downtown mall shine straight up into the sky.
I should ask Jim Andrews because he lives right across the road from Potter's Cider and what he knows about what's allowed and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Christine, if I understood you correctly, you said Dominion's light temperature is not in the recommended zone. Is that correct? Or the
Well, not
temperature.
Well, no, it isn't. And so we have had some great conversations with the city about, they're trying their best and they would really like to get better lighting, but it's just limited right now what Dominion has available. And so
I
the
mean,
idea,
that's so awful, right? I mean, Dominion owns all the light fixtures. You
yes,
would hope that a company of their scale would think about something like this, and for them to somehow have ordered lighting that doesn't. I mean, you can consume just as much electricity. You can get just as much quality safety lighting, and you could be so much better for the dark skies.
yeah.
I'm
And so
understanding you correctly. It's disappointing that they haven't been able to think that through.
yeah, and it's a catch-22 because the sodium halide lights, they decrease in intensity over time. So it's going to be a real shocker for somebody who lives in a neighborhood with a street light. And if you've had a sodium halide light and it's kind of diminished, it's like, oh, it's nice and soft. And then, but you get the LED installed and it's going to be, whoa, what that sodium halide light was supposed to put out, 15 years ago. So it's going to be rough for people living in these neighborhoods when the retrofit comes through.
Yeah. As you say, one thing, and this isn't quite the dark sky focus you had, but I'm thinking about all of these satellite swarms with that are up there. So it's different. It's not. It's polluting our night skies in a different way, right? From an astronomy perspective.
Yeah, absolutely.
See a lot more flying over than what you used to, and I assume that's not going to decrease in the years ahead.
No, I was talking to some middle school students about composting, and they asked me, well, can't we just shoot it up into space? And I'm like, we've all heard that one before. Well, we are kind of doing that right now, throwing a lot of stuff up into space.
Yeah.
Hey, Christine, hey, I have one thing. I have motion sensitive lights and my lights just went off. So I'm in the dark. But anyway,
Fantastic.
yeah. I mean, in Europe, all of the rooms, right? Like many places have motion sensitive. So that's actually kind of a technology fix that, people could do. But I want to thank you for bringing our attention to this issue. I didn't know anything about it before you started talking about it like 9 months ago. So it's really important for the educational, point of view. So thank you for that. And I just wanted to mention, I was just in DC at the Smithsonian in some of the museums, and in the Natural History Museum, they have a big display about dark skies. So many people are going through that exhibit and learning about this issue. So that's another bit of,
Yeah,
that's advertisement, but education for the public. So thank you for letting us know, and we'll all try to do our part.
Yeah. And, when you're writing to your representatives, don't forget your pitch for reducing light pollution and strong ordinances, et cetera, et cetera. But thank you. Thank you for the time to share.
Very good. Any last questions for Christine this evening? I think she's kind of closing out, but
Yes, very good. Thank you.
That was
Christine.
great. Thank you.
Thank you.
I love when you can actually see the night sky, right? You're quite correct. When you're in the city, after a while, you kind of forget what's out there, and when you get the occasion to go into a really dark area and a good clear night, it's pretty amazing what's up there.
The only time I've ever seen the Milky Way was at the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Really?
Eastern West
The
Virginia.
only time you've seen it.
I think I've been up in the mountains here a few times, but it was cloudy.
Yeah. You can go to West Virginia. I've gone in the summertime to West Virginia, and there's some pretty good dark spaces over there, and you can see the Milky Way. So at least in the region, there are places where it gets pretty good and dark. And then I've certainly been a few places out west and that you can enjoy it as well. But yeah, we unfortunately lose track of it when we don't have more regular access to it. So,
Yeah, I lived in Southeast Washington State and in the country, and I could see anytime it was clear, I could see the Milky Way for 17 years. So, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
miss that night sky.
Yeah.
okay, well, that was a good way to finish the evening, Christine, as we
All
think
right.
about shutting our lights off this evening.
Lights out.
Yeah, turn off your lights and I recommend we all go to bed.
I
Good
agree with
plan.
you. Jeez.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Okay, meeting
Bye.
adjourned. Good to see
Bye.
everyone. Take care.
Thank you.